By completing the square, find the solutions of the equation. X squared minus 4x minus 10 is equal to 0, and 3x squared minus 5x minus 11 is equal to 0. So we have x squared minus 4x minus 10 is equal to 0. We start off by bringing the constant to the right-hand side. So minus 10 comes over the equal sign and becomes plus 10. Next, we add the square of half the coefficient of x. So the coefficient of x is minus 4, and half of minus 4 is minus 2. So it's going to be minus 2 squared. So we add this to each side. This is very important, that it must be added to each side. So we have x squared minus 4x plus minus 2 squared. Make sure it's in brackets or you'll get the wrong answer. Equals 10 plus minus 2 squared. So minus 4 divided by 2 is minus 2. So then minus 2 squared really means minus 2 multiplied by minus 2, which is 4. So we have x squared minus 4x plus 4 is equal to 10 plus 4. 10 plus 4 is 14. So then we're going to factorize the left-hand side. So you have x squared minus 4x plus 4. Factorize gives us x minus 2 multiplied by x minus 2. So I got that because x squared lets us put an x in the front of both brackets. I have 4 at the end, so I have to use factors of 4, which is going to be 1 and 4, or else 2 and 2. This is a plus, which means these signs are going to be the same. This is a minus, which tells me they're both going to be minus. And I need to choose factors of 4, that when I put them together I end up with minus 4, so I'm going to go with minus 2 and minus 2. So I have x minus 2 multiplied by x minus 2, which is really x minus 2 squared, and this is equal to 14. So the left-hand side is the perfect square of x and half the coefficient of x in the quadratic. So we have x minus 2 squared is equal to 14, and we want to solve for x. So the squared comes over the equal sign and becomes square root. So we have x minus 2 equals plus minus the square root of 14. The plus minus is very important. So then we have x equals 2 plus minus the square root of 14. So the solutions are x equals 2 plus root 14 and x equals 2 minus root 14. So now we're going to work out 3x squared minus 5x minus 11 equals 0 by completing the square. So we start by dividing both sides by 3 to get 1x squared. So 3x squared divided by 3 is x squared. Minus 5x divided by 3 is going to be minus 5 over 3x. And minus 11 divided by 3 is minus 11 over 3. And 0 divided by 0 is just 0. So now we have x squared minus 5 over 3x minus 11 over 3. So we have to have x squared at the start. We don't want 3x squared, we want x squared. Okay, so now what we're going to do is bring the constant over the other side. So minus 11 over 3 comes over the equal sign and becomes plus 11 over 3. Then we take the coefficient of x, which is minus 5 over 3, and we halve it. So technically that's divided by 2, or divided by 2 over 1. So when we're dividing fractions, we turn the second fraction upside down and multiply. So 2 over 1 becomes 1 over 2, and divide becomes multiply. And when we're multiplying fractions, we do top by top, bottom by bottom. So minus 5 by 1 is going to be minus 5, and 3 by 2 is going to be 6, so we get minus 5 over 6. So this is half the coefficient of x. So this is half of minus 5 over 3. So what we have to do is square this and add it to both sides of the equals. So we have x squared minus 5 over 3x, and then we have minus 5 over 6, but squared. Then we have equals 11 over 3 plus minus 5 over 6 squared. So then what we need to do is factorize the left-hand side. So we have an x squared here, so we know we have an x in both brackets. And we have a plus here, so we know both of these signs are going to be the same. We have a minus here, so they're both minus. And we need to take factors of minus 5 over 6 squared, and the only factor of that's going to be minus 5 over 6. Because anything squared means itself multiplied by itself. And minus 5 over 6 minus 5 over 6 will actually give us minus 5 over 3. So we end up with x minus 5 over 6 times x minus 5 over 6. So this is equal to 11 over 3 plus 25 over 36, because minus 5 over 6 squared is 25 over 36. So we have x minus 5 over 6 multiplied by x minus 5 over 6, which gives us x minus 5 over 6 squared. And 11 over 3 plus 25 over 36 is 157 over 36. We bring the squared over the equal sign, it becomes a square root with a plus minus in front. So we have x minus 5 over 6 equals plus minus root 157 over 36. So the square root applies to the numerator and the denominator. We cannot get the square root of 157, but we can get the square root of 36, and it's 6. So the square root just stays on top. So we bring the minus 5 over 6 over the equal sign, and we're going to have 5 plus minus root 157 all over 6. So the solutions are x equals 5 plus root 157 over 6, or 5 minus root 157 over 6. Solve x squared plus 8x plus 7 equals 0 by completing the square. So our first step is we bring the constant to the right hand side. So plus 7 comes over the equal sign and becomes minus 7. Then we take the coefficient of x, which is 8, and we half it. So 8 divided by 2 is 4. And we're going to add the square of half the x to both sides. So it's going to be 4 squared and 4 squared. So we add it to both sides of the equals. So we have x squared plus 8x plus 4 squared equals minus 7 plus 4 squared. So 4 squared gives us 16. And minus 7 plus 16 is 9. So then we have x squared plus 8x plus 16 on the left hand side. So we factorize it. And we have x squared here. So we bring down the x in the front of both brackets. The factors of 16 are going to be 1 by 16, 2 by 8, 4 by 4. So we need to choose one of those factor pairs that together they give us 8. So this is a plus, which tells us these signs are the same. And this is a plus, which tells us they're both plus. So I'm going to go with 4 and 4. Because 4 plus 4 is 8, and 4 multiplied by 4 is 16. So x plus 4 times x plus 4 is x plus 4 squared. That's equal to 9. Then I'm going to solve for x. So I'm going to bring the squared over the other side. It becomes the square root, which is really the plus minus square root. So I have x plus 4 equals plus minus square root of 9. So the square root of 9 is plus or minus 3. And 4 becomes minus 4. So x is going to be 3 minus 4, which is minus 1. Or minus 3 minus 4, which is minus 7. So x is minus 1 or x is minus 7. Solve x squared minus 12x plus 20 is equal to 0 by completing the square. So again, these are our steps. Step 1, we bring the constant over to the right hand side. So plus 20 comes over the equal sign, becomes minus 20. Then we're going to add the square of half the coefficient of x to both sides. So the coefficient of x is minus 12. And half of that is minus 6. So we're going to square minus 6. So we've got minus 6 squared on the left-hand side and minus 6 squared on the right-hand side. It's really, really important that we have brackets when we're doing this. So we have x squared minus 12x plus 36, because minus 6 by minus 6 is 36. If we'd forgotten the brackets, we would have had minus 36 down here, which would be incorrect. So we have minus 20 plus 36 is going to be 16. So then we have x squared plus minus 12x plus 36 on the left-hand side. We need to factorize this. So the x squared gives us an x in the front of both brackets. This plus sign tells me these signs are the same. And this is a minus, which tells me they're both minus. And I need factors of 36 that when I add them together, they give me 12. So I'm going to go with 6 and 6. So minus 6 gives me minus 12. So I have x minus 6 times x minus 6, which is x minus 6 squared, is equal to 16. So the squared comes over the equal sign, it becomes the square root. So we have x minus 6 equals the square root of 16. The square root of 16 is plus or minus 4, and the minus 6 comes over and becomes plus 6. So x is going to be plus 4 plus 6, which is 10, or x is going to be minus 4 plus 6, which is 2. So x is equal to 10, or x is equal to 2.